You pull into your own driveway at 11:17 p.m. Dead tired after a red-eye flight. And the first thing you see is police lights painting your house red and blue like some bad Netflix true crime opener. A blonde woman you've never met is sipping coffee in your kitchen window like she owns the place. Then the HOA president steps out from behind the squad car with a smile so fake it could sell timeshares in hell. Officer. This man abandoned the property weeks ago. My associate has been legally house-sitting. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how Ryan Ellis almost got arrested for breaking into the house he'd paid off 15 years ago. Let me take you back. Harmony Grove Estates sits in the suburbs outside Phoenix. One of those planned communities where every lawn is the exact same shade of chemically enhanced green and the mailboxes all match the approved Tuscan beige. It used to be a quiet street of older homes until the developer bought the land behind it in 2020 and dropped 47 identical stucco boxes with 3-car garages and infinity edge dreams. Ryan's place was the last holdout, an unassuming 1980s ranch with a big backyard. A garden he actually used. And an American flag that flew 365 days a year because nobody told his late father otherwise. Enter Deborah Deb Langley. 64. Former regional bank VP. White Range Rover. Yoga body she never shuts up about. And a personality like a spreadsheet with opinions. She moved in. Took one look at Ryan's slightly longer grass and non-matching shutters. And decided the neighborhood needed saving. From him. She ran for HOA president on a platform of restoring order and protecting property values. Translation: weaponizing covenants against anyone who didn't conform. Ryan became public enemy number 1. The man was a 47-year-old divorced warehouse supervisor raising a teenage daughter part-time. He kept to himself. Paid his dues on time. And never bothered anybody. That was apparently a crime. First came the letters. Grass exceeds maximum height by 0.8 inches. Flag display violates 30-day seasonal rule. Vehicle parked 4 inches over the approved driveway line. Ryan paid the fines quietly. Mowed at 6 a.m. on Saturdays. And kept the flag up anyway. Then the rumors started. He's antisocial. Probably depressed since the divorce. I heard he yells at kids on Halloween. None of it true. But it spread like cheap gossip at a wine night. Ryan just smiled. Nodded. And kept living his life. What they didn't know was he was watching. Recording. Building a file. Because patience is a hell of a weapon when the other side thinks they're untouchable. 3 weeks ago his father had emergency heart surgery back in Ohio. Ryan flew out immediately. Arranged for a neighbor kid to mow the lawn. And left his security system armed. He figured the HOA couldn't possibly get crazier while he was gone. He was wrong. Deb declared the property abandoned under a dusty bylaw that said any home unoccupied for more than 14 days without prior board approval could be subject to emergency intervention. She and her best friend / real estate flipping partner, Lisa, secured the premises. Translation: they changed the locks. Moved Lisa in. And started running a very profitable, very illegal short-term rental operation. Executive wellness retreats for Silicon Valley types who wanted authentic suburban authenticity at $450 a night. They used Ryan's backyard for sunset yoga. His kitchen for wine tastings. And his garage for overflow parking. They even printed fake lease documents with Ryan's forged signature. The night he came home, the cops were already there because Deb had called them the second his Uber turned onto the street. He's unstable. He threatened me last month. Classic. Officer Ramirez looked at Ryan's house keys, driver's license, and the deed on his phone. Then he looked at Deb, who was standing there in Lululemon and pearls. arms crossed like she was protecting the free world from bad landscaping. "Ma'am, this man is the legal owner." Deb didn't even blink. "Officer. He abandoned it. We have documentation. The community has liability concerns. We're just protecting everyone." Lisa poked her head out the front door in silk pajamas holding Ryan's favorite coffee mug, the one his daughter painted for him in 3rd grade. "Thank God you're here. He's been harassing me for weeks." Ryan felt the rage. But he kept his voice calm. Years on the warehouse floor had taught him that losing your cool just gives the other side ammunition. "Check the security footage," he said quietly, pulling out his phone. The cloud one they didn't know about. The first clip showed Lisa picking the lock 11 days after he left. The second showed Deb supervising movers carrying in massage tables and essential oil diffusers. The third showed guests doing downward dog in his backyard while drinking rose and complaining about the previous owner's tacky decor. Officer Ramirez's expression changed. Deb's did too, though hers went from smug to the kind of tight smile people get right before they realize the floor is lava. That was only the beginning. The next morning Ryan walked his property and discovered the full extent of the operation. His shed had been turned into a sound bath studio. His utility bills had tripled from crypto miners they'd hidden in the basement. The HOA had filed 17 new violations against him for unauthorized commercial activity on his own land, using the illegal business they'd set up as evidence. Classic. But Ryan didn't explode. He smiled. Thanked the officers. Changed his locks again. And started making calls. Quietly. Methodically. He had months of footage. Audio of Deb screaming at other neighbors about their holiday lights being 2 days late coming down. Texts between her and Lisa bragging about how they were going to flip Ryan's house once they legally acquired it through adverse possession nonsense. Bank records showing Lisa running the rental income through a shell company tied to Deb's husband. The neighborhood started to crack. At first people sided with Deb. She was the president. She hosted the wine nights. She knew the rules. But then the footage leaked. Ryan didn't leak it. But someone did, and suddenly the group chat blew up. People saw Deb measuring their own grass with a ruler at 7 a.m. on Sundays. Saw her towing a neighbor's truck for offensive bumper stickers. Watched her tell a veteran with PTSD that his service dog violated the no visible animals rule. The mask was slipping. The county hearing was where it all detonated. It was supposed to be a boring administrative review about the alleged abandonment. Deb showed up with a 3-inch binder, a PowerPoint titled "Protecting Harmony Grove from Neglect," and 3 board members ready to nod like bobbleheads. Ryan showed up in a clean shirt with a thumb drive and 37 pages of time-stamped evidence. The hearing officer looked bored until the first video played, Deb and Lisa laughing about how the idiot will never know until it's too late while carrying Ryan's late mother's piano out to a moving van. The room went dead silent. Deb's face did something beautiful. It went from confident boardroom smile to full deer in headlights in about 0.3 seconds. Her mouth opened. Closed. Then opened again like a fish that just realized the water was gone. "That's taken out of context," she stammered. "We were preserving community assets." Ryan leaned forward. Voice low and steady. "You changed my locks. Forged my signature. And ran an illegal hotel out of my house while fining Mrs. Alvarez $250 for having a garden gnome. Which one of us is the threat to property values?" The hearing officer actually laughed. Once. Then caught himself. By the end of the afternoon, the board was in full meltdown. Deb tried the classic Karen pivot, tears. Victimhood. "I was only trying to help," but the videos kept playing. The one where she told Lisa, "Once we get rid of him, we can subdivide the lot and build 3 more units" was particularly popular. County code enforcement opened an investigation. The IRS got interested in the unreported rental income. The state real estate board started asking questions about Lisa's license. And the neighbors? They turned. The same people who'd whispered about Ryan's attitude started showing up at his door with casseroles and apologies. One guy even admitted he'd been threatened with fines unless he supported Deb's complaints. 2 weeks later, an emergency HOA meeting was called. Deb tried to ram through a special assessment to cover legal defense costs. The room revolted. People who had been terrified to speak up for years suddenly found their voices. You measured my hedge with a laser level at 6:45 a.m. You towed my mother-in-law's car because the visitor pass was 1 day expired. You told my kid his basketball hoop was a visual blight. Deb stood at the podium. Perfectly highlighted hair starting to frizz from stress sweat. And for the first time looked small. The Queen of Rules had finally run out of bylaws to hide behind. She was voted out 41-6. The new board immediately dissolved half the stupidest rules and issued her a $15,000 fine for abuse of authority. Lisa's rental operation got shut down. And both women faced civil suits from Ryan and at least 4 other neighbors who'd been quietly documenting the same pattern. Ryan didn't gloat. He didn't need to. He just sat on his back patio, the one they tried to steal, drinking a beer. Watching his daughter practice basketball in the driveway. American flag waving overhead like it had never left. The neighborhood wasn't perfect. It never would be. But the suffocating grip of one woman's ego had finally been pried loose. And somewhere in the suburbs of America, 1,000 other HOAs just felt a sudden chill. So here's the question I want you to answer honestly in the comments. Was Ryan the problem for quietly collecting evidence and fighting back against people who tried to steal his home while pretending to protect the community? Or is the real villain the smiling Karen who uses rules and standards as weapons to control everyone around her until the mask finally cracks? Drop your answer. Right or wrong? I'm reading every single one. And if you've got your own HOA horror story, put it below. Because the more we talk about this stuff, the harder it gets for the next Deb Langley to think she can get away with it. See you in the next one. Stay vigilant out there.